Welcome, friends, in this awakening world. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for your presence here. This is a commentary on Patanjali's Yogasutra based on the recognition of your true self, something that this text points to, and something that yoga points to. Now, there are all these different paths out there that describe actually this inner discovery, this inner revelation. It is just a revelation because your essential nature, you already are. You just forgot it. And so the different darshanas, as they are called in India, which are this way of glimpsing, seeing reality, coming to know what you are, coming to know what the truth is. They all present slightly different ways, but the main idea behind it, to realize your true self, to come out of suffering, is the same. And yoga presents a way in which there is a clear distinction between what you are, your essential nature, which is consciousness, purusha, pure awareness, and the world of what is perceivable, prakriti. And through this clarity of distinction, clarity in your discrimination, you come to know what you are. At the end of it, obviously, and this is also experientially, you realize this world comes out of this essential nature. This world arises within you. There is a complete oneness. This is also what some of the yogic traditions actually describe, between the formless and the form. One is its nature, your nature, the formless, and one is your expression that is obviously prompted, orchestrated, coming out of the same formless essence. It is the same divine. And in the end, there is this understanding of this complete oneness. Everything is divine. No more distinction between those compartments. But to know your true essence, you have to go over this distinction. You have to discriminate yourself against what is perceivable. That is the path of yoga. And this path of yoga also incorporates the understanding that you are inherently unified, that there is no actual separate entity. What you come to realize as you realize yourself is there is no separate entity. What is perceived as this separate entity from awareness, from the knowledge of your true self, is also just thought. It just consists of a construct of perceptions, a construct of thoughts. And these thoughts, perceptions, ideas, beliefs have been identified with. So, as you start to meditate, Actually, already for most people, then if the meditation isn't object focused anymore, so you aren't meditating on an object, what you're meditating on is the mind. It means you're staying with the self. It means you're staying as the witness. It means you're staying with the self. You're not taking on any thoughts. This is when you start not observing the mind streams that are happening in the mind, what we do during our days, but also what we do when we are a bit contemplative. We think about what we are thinking. We think about our constructed thoughts, our beliefs. We are actually, investigating in what we believe. This is different. You are observing the mind. It means there needs to be a distance to all and every thought. It means to not take on thought. It is to come actually into touch with the power of the mind. The power of the mind to pull you. The power of the mind to have you identified with certain ideas of self, certain assumptions, certain, just conditioned beliefs about yourself. So this is how you start observing the mind. And what then also happens as you become aware then also about this emptiness, the purity of essence that lies actually behind phenomena, behind perceptions, behind what is perceivable. As you increasingly become aware of that, you become aware, and these are markers, you should find them. You become aware that this essence, this emptiness, this awareness is unbound. It isn't local. So what's the localization? What is the mind? Become like this super researcher, like someone having a telescope inside. Start becoming so interested in yourself. So you're observing that what you are, this essence, this emptiness, this awareness is boundless. And thought, identified thought, makes you feel localized. The identification with the perception of the body makes you feel localized. As you revert back, as you become more aware of awareness, as you become more aware of this emptiness, you become aware of your own boundlessness. I call it the spaciousness. You're starting what some people call to experience peripheral awareness. It is like the expanded version of yourself. It is basically you're expanding your view. You're expanding your understanding even of yourself. It is starting to encapsulate a wider space. And as you become experientially, practically aware, this world, all the people, are all perceptions inside of my awareness. It actually automatically catapults you back. Think about it. Even hopefully mentally now, conceptually, it catapults you back into a perspective that is much larger. that doesn't just occupy your mind body, but that sees from its own spaciousness everyone within your awareness. When people have near-death experiences, they sometimes have that expansive experience of themselves. They suddenly see what other people think about. They suddenly see beyond space and time. Now, they aren't actually leaving themselves. What they leave in that moment is this identification with the body mind. And they're becoming expanded again in their perception of self as what they actually are. They are also. They need to have the awareness that they aren't found inside the body. They aren't even found inside the body, never ever. It's just that this opens up to them then. Now, what also opens up to you, or potentially opens up to you, and what the sutra talks about is Svadhyayata Ishta Devata Samprayogaha. It says that as you inquire more into the self, which is also becoming, what is inquiry actually leading to? It is leading you to a clarity what you are, hopefully. Svadhyayata. What does that mean? Swa is the self, not the small self, the large self, the true self. Svadhyayata means to move towards the self, self-inquiry. Not any longer self-inquiry, the small self, like my psychological patterns, my beliefs, my ideas. No. Who am I? Who are you? What is that true self? And as you actually explore, as you experience, as you meditate, as you witness, what is that awareness like? What am I when I am observing thoughts? When I'm no longer identified in thoughts, what am I then? And as you have all these findings that you are, for example, boundless, or that the world comes alive in you, as you, I hope this motivates you to sit down and go inside and just have these swadhyayat. Find yourself again. Find out who you are. Check in. Look. Come from clarity. What does he say? Swadhyayate ishta devata samprayogaha. So, as you move yourself back, you become more boundless, you become have more of a peripheral awareness. You are actually also moving, you could say, through deeper layers of yourself. That's why it's also so interesting that he talks about svadhyayata. First of all, yoga also has self-inquiry. Svadhyayata. It is not that yoga doesn't have that. And what is also actually in that understanding that people used to have when they were immersed and versed in the Vedas is also an inquiry that goes over your multidimensional structure. It means there is an Upanishad that talks about a child actually asking the parent what it is. Also super nice to see that. There already the child asks, and the child already has to find out. And the child already gets answers from the parent. It's always that the child should look deeper. So the child actually looks into its own multidimensionality. It looks into its own layers. First, it finds out that it has this physical body. Then it finds out that it has this energetic body. Then it finds out that it has this mental body. So it goes deeper and deeper inside. Now, as you go deeper inside and you come to those more unconscious layers of self, yeah, still identified self, please understand. But you are actually also dipping deeper into your unconscious, and you are dipping deeper into like the wider unconscious, the deeper layers of your soul. This is how most people actually, they go deeper and deeper inside. They find these kind of soul layers. They find out about their past lives. They find out their soul aspects. We nowadays call them often like archetypes and divine forms that are deeply connected to your soul, that you feel deeply drawn to. So this sutra says, as you go into self-inquiry, as you go deeper inside, as you move deeper towards the self, svadhyayat, what happens? Ishtadevata samprayogaha. You come into intense connection with your favorite divinity, your favorite divine forms. As you move deeper inside, those soul aspects that seem so, like you connect to them, or the divine forms that you treasure inside your heart, that are deeply connected to your soul, that you love. You feel you connect to them. Samprayogaha. They become more and more apparent as you. More of those divine aspects start to shine as you. Now, what yoga philosophy and also Patanjali's Yogasutra also talk about, and what is such an helpful also map for you on this path of remembrance, are these unity experiences. You come into union. How do you come into union? Essentially, obviously, again, the world comes alive in you. There is no separation and there is no separate entity. That's why, you have an experience of yourself being unified, which is what you essentially always are. As you move deeper inside, what yoga philosophy, first chapter already, what he actually already talks about when he talks about samadhi is that what awareness focuses itself on, shines. So this can also be a so-called or a beforehandedly perceived outside object. You come into touch with your own divinity, with those divine forms that are connected to your soul. So much so that they start to shine. They start to shine through you. Svadhyayate, Ishtadevata, Samprayogaha. That's when those divine forms become more visible through your form. And many people actually on the spiritual path, maybe without this understanding at all, but as they become, that's why I hope that this is also really helpful to you. But many people that are on a spiritual path and that somehow, become very, very subtle, very, very transparent, then this also just starts to happen to you. You have these unity experiences, then also potentially with Ishtadevata, your favorite divine forms. They shine in you and as you. Samprayogaha, an intense connection. On some level nowadays, you could also say they are your higher self, If you want to place still some form in between this form and the true self. Obviously, as you go deeper and deeper, you have to discriminate yourself against all appearances, no matter how tempting and beautiful they are, no matter if it's a divine form that shines through you, no matter if your form displays these divine characteristics, as long as it's perceivable, as long as it is changing, as long as it comes and goes, it isn't what you are. It is also something that you will need to discriminate yourself from to discover what you are. It is really then this complete annihilation of anything and everything. But, the mind and the more subtler structures of your mind and the more expansive experiences that are unified, they will offer to you also more and more interesting experiences on a spiritual level. And it's also such a nice thing to actually stress. You don't need to take anything. You don't need to, I don't know, go any place to have a spiritual experience or an expansive experience. You don't need all of that. You don't need to induce experiences. You need to do swadhyayata, which is meditation, looking. Who am I? What are you? More and more actually coming to know yourself again as awareness. And then these expansive experiences usually also happen. And you will need to discriminate yourself also against all of them. But what a motivation, what an advertisement in this sutra, Swadhyayata. If you do this inquiry, hey, what happens? You come into touch with your higher self, or however you want to call it, those higher consciousness fields, divine consciousness fields, divine forms, that deep Ishtadevata that you treasure in your heart, or that speak to you on a soul level, that are you on a soul level, that are your, however you perceive it from this relative stance, that are your guardians, your protectors, your gurus, your teachers, your divine teachers all of that you come into touch with. The spiritual, you go deeper inside into what you are. You're opening yourself to a wider mind. That wider mind also includes divine forms, divine essences. Svadhyayata. As you inquire into the self, as you go deeper inside, as you become increasingly aware of awareness, as you expand back into your spaciousness, what happens? Samprayoga, intense union with Ishtadevata, your favorite divine essence. Namaste.